Ravens tight end Mark Andrews suffered a likely season-ending injury on this play, bringing into more discussion this concern over the hip drop tackle and whether or not it should be banned. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and my goal in this channel is to help teach you about the medical side of the sports world. So if you enjoy learning about anatomy and sports injuries, then please consider subscribing. Let's go right to the play here where Andrews was injured to talk about, number one, just what this injury likely is. So the word, of course, is that it's an ankle injury, and this looks very classic for your typical high ankle sprain or syndesmosis tear, and the report that it's probably season-ending likely means there was either a fracture in the ankle or he has a complete tear of that high ankle sprain ligament, leading to ankle instability and the need for a surgery. Whenever we watch this through here, so keep an eye on that left ankle, Wilson comes in, and we'll talk about this whole hip drop tackle here, but how he lands on this back portion of Andrew's ankle. What you're gonna see is the tibia is forward, so the ankle is a little bit dorsiflexed. What that dorsiflexion does is it engages and locks the talus. The talus, if we look here at our anatomy model, the talus is the bone that sits and makes up the main ankle joint, surrounded on top by the tibia, the shin bone, and then the fibula, the bone on the outside. The high ankle sprain ligament is this AITFL, anterior because it's in the front, inferior because it's down below, tibiofibular ligament. That AITFL is helping to keep the tibia and the fibula anchored together. So whenever you have a force where the talus is engaged, dorsiflexed up with the foot, and then externally rotated so the toe is pointing out, that pushes that tibia and fibula apart from one another, stressing that high ankle sprain ligament. So then if we take that back to what's going on here with Andrews, we can see that foot is planted, he's dorsiflexed up, that engages the talus within the tibiotalar joint, and then as Wilson comes in, it's going to force that foot and ankle into some external rotation along with some eversion of the ankle, potentially causing some deltoid ligament tearing on the inside, but the big concern, high ankle sprain, potentially unstable. If that ligament's completely torn, those bones can't stabilize the ankle joint and needs surgery. This, of course, leads to the other question then of banning this hip drop tackle. And yes, I think we need to absolutely try and get rid of this tackle, but I'm gonna be honest, I think it's gonna be really hard to do because there's some situations where I think guys don't really have a choice, but their instincts kick in to try and bring the player down. I don't think there's necessarily intent here, but just because there's not intent doesn't mean we shouldn't still try and make the game safer. If we just run through the play here, so here's Thomas, and as he's coming up, I don't really know how else he's supposed to make this tackle. So he's trying to chase down Andrews from the side. He comes in, and as he grabs him, I guess it's more just how he's sliding through and pulling him down, but I don't know how else you make a tackle there because you're coming at the player from such an angle that that's really all that you can do. So I think if in this case you were to say these hip drop tackles cannot be done anymore, you just simply won't be able to make a tackle here and try and stop Andrews because here in this position, he has Andrews wrapped up. And so he's just instinctively going to try and grab him to throw him down. But because he's sliding through and the right sequence of timing is when Andrews' left leg gets caught up underneath him, that leads to this injury. And so yes, these hip drop tackles, there is a higher chance that somebody's going to have something like a high ankle sprain, potentially a Liz Frank, like we'll talk about, might have been a close call with Lamar. But I don't know when you get rid of it, you're just not going to be able to make a tackle there. You're not going to be able to bring him down because the way his momentum is running, that's the only thing he can do to try and stop Andrews. So I don't think there's necessarily intent here. I think it's these players are trained, do whatever you need to do to bring the opponent down, and that's just the unfortunate way of how his body is falling. So yes, I think we need to try and get rid of this tackling form, this technique, especially in circumstances where it's a little bit more clear and obvious. But here, I just don't know what else from a football standpoint Thomas is going to be able to do when he's approaching from this position to try and bring Andrews down. He wraps him up, but then as he falls, that's really just the natural thing of what's going to happen. I'm realizing now that I confused my players on the Bengals, but regardless, it was the same guy, Wilson here, who made this tackle on Lamar. And I don't know how you could describe this as a hip drop. I think he's just chasing him down from behind and trying to wrap up his legs. But people are still saying this was an equally dirty play. The concern, though, when you bring these guys down from behind is you look and see what is going on here with Lamar's feet, the position of his feet here. They're a little bit pushed off on the ground. The toe is loading in. And then whenever you fall on the back of someone's foot in that plantar flex position, you put a lot of axial load through their foot. And this is often the way that we'll see a contact Liz Frank injury occur. So nothing that happened here with Lamar, but a similar thing depending on how you land on someone's leg, land on someone's ankle with these types of tackles. You also run the risk of something like a Liz Frank injury to the foot. The problem with a lot of these rule changes with tackling is you patch up one hole and you just open up something else. And so as we've made some of these changes with, you know, the targeting calls, etc., guys are still trying to find different ways to bring their opponents down, and that leads to a more propensity for these hip drop tackles. Yes, I think it definitely is a high risk sort of tackle. And I think if you truly get rid of it, yes, we should see less injuries, but you're also going to see more situations where guys just can't be wrapped up, and you're going to see more offensive success, which is fine for the sport because we're preventing injuries. I think it's important, though, to distinguish the intent from something that just is a natural way of trying to tackle a grown man that puts you at higher risk of getting hurt. I don't necessarily feel like Wilson here was intentionally trying to hurt Andrews. I think just the angle he was taking, that was the only way he could bring him down. And in the moment, you're not thinking about, am I doing a hip drop? All you're thinking is, I got to bring this guy down. And that's how your momentum, everything carries you through. Unfortunate nonetheless to see this happen for Andrews. Thankfully, Lamar seemed to get out okay from his scare. But let me know, as always, any questions or comments down below. What do you guys think about this whole hip drop? Should we ban it? Can players change? Is this something that you think Wilson was intentionally trying to do? Let me know down below. And until next time, we'll see you later.